We have been talking about this all morning. Pakistan has declared open war on Afghanistan. This happened overnight, and it is, of course, a really complicated region and a complicated situation. So we want to bring in Professor Bapat from UNC Chapel Hill. Professor, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Well, I want to start with just the simplest way we can. What happened here? For people who are not familiar with this region, this conflict, what happened?
So there was an attack by Pakistan on Afghanistan using airstrikes, which happened in major cities of Kabul and Kandahar, along with several other border areas. This is followed from retaliatory strikes that have happened on Sunday. Pakistan also engaged in an attack against Afghanistan that was followed earlier this week by Taliban attacks on the borderline between Pakistan and Afghanistan. The central issue that's motivating these attacks is terrorism by an organization called the TTP, which is the Pakistani Taliban, that is engaged in some violence in Pakistan. But it's a bigger issue than that. The Taliban in Afghanistan, which prevailed in its conflict with the United States in 2021, was supported by Pakistan for quite some time. That relationship has fallen apart, as we can see. So that's sort of the contributing factor to this conflict. Largely, it's driven by Pakistani fears of India aligning with the Afghan Taliban. So again, there's a lot going on there, but that's some of the background.
Yeah, as you mentioned, just a very complicated region, a complicated history here that it's hard to explain, especially if you're not familiar with the region overall. But I do want to just point out, you mentioned so many things kind of leading up to this, but any escalation to this level is, of course, of international importance. Were we anticipating such a dramatic strike?
Well, I think that the strike itself, there was a conflict that happened in October 2025 between the Taliban and Pakistan, which involved these types of violence. That was mediated by Qatar and Turkey. So we saw some depression in it, but there were terror attacks that followed after that in Pakistan. So it was not a stable situation. So I would say, in observing after the October violence, it was probably likely that something like this might emerge again.
And for those of us who don't know the differences when we talk about conflict here, they declared open war. What does that actually mean versus just war? What is the prelude here of open change about this conflict?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much of sort of an actual difference it is for people on the ground that are experiencing these attacks. I think what it does suggest is that Pakistan is now not hiding the fact that there are hostilities between itself and Afghanistan, though that would be hard to hide in the last several months. But again, these two are allies. So I think what Pakistan is declaring is that they want some effort to displace the Taliban leadership, hopefully change their dynamic with Afghanistan, and maybe just depose the Afghan Taliban. So again, it suggests some escalation on Pakistan's part. But I think broadly speaking, for people experiencing this type of violence, the difference between open warfare and actual warfare is probably not that different. It's just really what Pakistan's strategy actually looks like.
Right, that makes sense. I know, of course, the United States withdrew from Afghanistan in 2021. Is there any way the United States is related to this conflict? Anything that people here need to know?
Well, the United States is not part of this conflict. The United States has effectively backed off of this area since 2021. And again, at that time, the Afghan Taliban and Pakistan were allied in sort of their conflict with the United States. Absent the United States to keep them unified, some of these disputes start to emerge again. And a key thing is that India has been sort of cultivating its ties with Afghanistan. That has always been a concern of Pakistan, that it would be surrounded by a hostile Afghanistan on one side and India on the other. So that's probably something that's contributing to some of Pakistan's behavior right now.
What happens next at this point? I know that this is still developing. It's still very early. Where do these countries and the ones that are even directly related, the ones that you've mentioned, where do they go from here?
So I think probably we're not going to see any backing down from either side. The off-ramp might be another attempt at some mediation by an outside party, but Pakistan has declared that it wants to get rid of the TTP. The likelihood of doing that, I don't think, is very, very high. Afghanistan is saying it's defending itself. Pakistan has traditionally involved itself in Afghanistan affairs, so the likelihood that Pakistan just goes away is not likely. So there could be some escalation in this conflict unless there's some effort to try to at least get a ceasefire or some sort. But the rivalry and the conflict is probably going to continue for some time. After, again, the level of kinetic violence, hopefully that comes down, but I think the rivalry is something that will be long term.
And this is unrelated to other conflicts in the region, or does something like this just kind of add to the general destabilization?
Well, the key conflict that it's related to is Pakistan's conflict with India. That really is just driving everything. And if we look at Pakistan's strategic policy towards Afghanistan, it has always been motivated by this idea of strategic depth, which in the event of a conflict with India, they could retreat to Afghanistan and conduct warfare there. So their incentive is to try to get a weaker Afghanistan. The fear that India invests in Afghanistan and builds better ties there, that means that Pakistan's surrounded. So it does have the relationship to its conflict with India, but outside of that, there could be some relation to some other conflicts, but really that's what's driving it.
Yeah, and this will, of course, keep developing. This is still very early in this situation. Anything else I haven't asked about that you think our listeners need to know?
I think it'd be interesting to watch what India does as this conflict starts to escalate. It would also be interesting to watch what China does. China has tried to make itself a partner of both Pakistan and Afghanistan, so what they do and how they react is likely to be significant.
All right, Professor, thank you so much, as always, for your help here. This is a very complicated issue, and so you breaking it down for us is very, very helpful.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back in 2 minutes.